you mentioned gun. Was it gun control that you?
Gun safety.
Gun safety.
Yeah.
Tell me, give me a little a rundown on your opinions on that and what you'd like to do in Congress when it comes to guns, if that's cool. I know this doesn't have much to do. I think I saw a couple of placards about guns, something about having more access to guns than we do abortion or something like that. But anyway, yeah,
So this event has nothing to do with that.
right.
But it is very personal to me because I'm an Arizona native. I was born here. I grew up here. I'm raising my 10-year-old daughter in our public schools, which I talked to you a little bit about. And she's had gun violence situations. So at her public school and around town, I was at work one day when she sent me a text, "Daddy, there's a shooter here." And it's not a pleasant text. And it just puts you in a completely different space. And now we think about Uvalde or what could happen at her school, at our malls, at our grocery stores. And that's a reality that we're living with right now. So what can we do about that? What kind of change can we make to protect not only our students, but all of us? Around 60,000 people are killed due to gun violence in the United States every year. And that is a huge number. I'm 37 years old, so I do a little bit of math. 37 times, say, 60,000. It's about 1.5 million people in my lifetime have died due to gun violence in this country. That is a war zone. I think that's unacceptable. It needs to change.
I agree. And what sort of laws would you hope to enact that may change these things?
So first, easy, simple things. We can get back to an assault rifles ban, similar to what was under Clinton. I think we also need to have expanded background checks to make sure that, yes, you can get a gun, but who can get a gun and under what circumstances? Red flag laws, I think, are also very important. I know individuals who are not mentally capable of holding a job, of living on their own. They are 45, 46-year-old men who don't have a job, who live literally in their parents' basements, and they go out and buy firearms. They are the scary group that they have no controls whatsoever, and often that's who's doing the shooting.
So just real quick, you mentioned the assault rifles ban.
Yep.
First of all, what is an assault rifle?
Well, now that's a nebulous term, as we both know.
That's the term that a lot.
And it's the one that I
leftists are
just
using.
said.
Yeah.
Yes, I just said it.
Yeah.
So, and that's a totally made up term. It's, as people say, it's guns that look scared.
Because if I hit you with an apple, doesn't that become an assault apple?
A battery apple, yes.
Yeah. Assault.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a difference between assault and battery, but yes, an assault rifle, what is it? Again, it's a totally nebulous term. So we can both come up with definitions and they'll be completely different.
Don't you think it's, sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
you think it's important that we define that instead of trying to, people aren't going to read the legislature. Like, no, your average citizen is not going to go through this however long,
Yep.
Legislature. And
Sure.
so don't you think we should define the term assault rifle? And why don't we do this? Why don't we play a game? Let's define it because it's so undefined, even though the term is used so often.
Sure.
Let's define it as a semi-automatic, high capacity, high-powered rifle that can, shoot projectiles at a certain speed and et cetera, right? Like we're
Sure.
gonna have a loose definition there.
Yeah.
What percentage of deaths in this country are due to weapons like that?
Well, percentage of deaths in the country, out of all deaths, but probably pretty low.
It's extremely low.
Yeah.
So my question is, why are we talking about banning assault rifles? Because if I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of gun crimes in this country, and I also think that gun crimes and gun violence, these terms are misleading because a gun just doesn't shoot somebody. And I don't like to use the kind of tried term, guns don't kill people, people kill people. But
Yeah.
it does seem logical, and I've wrestled with that quite often because a gun on a table is just an inanimate object. Someone needs to pick it up and actually do something with it for it to injure or kill somebody. So, the vast majority of deaths in this country where a gun was used to commit that murder, death, killing, are done with illegally owned handguns. So these people are already breaking the law, right? They're already breaking the law by not following our laws to own those weapons. What other, if that's the majority of deaths, why aren't we talking about that? A and B, what can we do to stop those when it comes to law?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the states with stricter gun policies, they do have fewer deaths, and the deaths that do occur in those states are largely, just like you said, they're illegal firearms that are brought in from other states. I think we can do something on a national level to help people survive or to not have people killed on a national basis. I don't think that uh, Australia had a problem with guns in the past, and they locked down their country in that way, and the people came together to say, hey, we don't want firearms all over the place. Let's do more restrictions on them. And that has been very successful. Now,
In what way was that successful? Just real quick.
in reducing the number of gun fatalities in Australia.
Are you also aware that I think there was a major spike in deaths using knives and other types of things?
Sure, there are always going to be something that comes out. I don't think it was to the same level.
Yeah.
But yes, there will be a spike. That's like saying in the European Union, there are very few gun deaths, but there are knife deaths.
Mm.
Yes, but there are fewer knife deaths than there were gun deaths before enacting the legislation.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we also
understand.
have something called the Second Amendment, which other countries don't have, and then we could talk about the Revolutionary War and all of those things.
Yep.
Why that's enshrined in the Constitution and all that stuff. But no, it's very interesting, man. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I don't know, is there anything else you'd like to say on that subject?
No, I'm all good. I mean, we could continue to talk about handguns if you'd like, but no, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes I get a little. There's just so much information to go over with all this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
When it comes to handguns, my personal opinion is that, if you ban assault rifles, essentially what you're doing is taking away the rights of what are the vast majority of assault rifle owners, people who abide by the law. And, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I mean, some people definitely abide by the law, but Canada has stricter gun policies, and they're doing just fine. If you want a gun, you can get a gun, but they also have fewer deaths than we do.
Fewer deaths per capita?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure about the statistics on Canada, but as far as, America goes and the rights enshrined in the Constitution, how do you convince people around the Constitution that you hold that dearly?
So in the Constitution, I'm going to say, well, you could probably recite it because you're probably big into this space, but a well-regulated militia. And so who is that and what is that? You having an assault rifle, are you part of a well-regulated militia, or are you an individual gun owner who can do what you want with it?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually a militia, well-regulated. So it's not quite a well-regulated militia. So I think a lot of people confuse that to mean, some regulatory body overseeing some militia. I don't think that's.
Well, this gets into debates on what it means and how much does a comma mean.
Yeah.
That gets into very semantics. But do we need to be holding everything to a constitution that was written years ago before assault weapons were around? And it's a living, breathing document, and we can change it if we can get the votes to make that happen.
Well, they did have, cannons and other extremely high, what were considered probably the assault rifles of that day that were extremely high powered and so on, and people had the rights to own those. But I get, again, Constitution, semi aside, it's very much important in this discussion. But if we just look at the statistics, right? How many people are dying in this country where a gun was used to kill that person? The vast majority are done with illegally owned weapons and by people who already don't follow the law. So when people talk about red flag laws and background checks and all these things, I don't necessarily disagree, because there are there is gun violence, use your term, that is committed by people who have bought those guns legally. It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
But the vast majority aren't. I think a lot of politicians and other pundits are hyper focused on this smaller section and presenting a sort of blanket solution that actually takes a lot of other people's rights away. And another statistic that people don't talk about is the million or thereabouts defensive uses of firearms every year. So we have to think about all of the deaths or crimes that didn't happen or weren't committed due to people being able to protect themselves with firearms. It's not really a question.
Yeah, there was no question.
Yeah,
there,
it's more like. I mean, it's got to be tough for you.
So
I'm glad I'm not a politician.
Yeah. So my take is fewer guns would be better. We're not. It's not the more guns that we have, the safer we are. I think that's just not true. We have far more than one gun per person in the United States, and gun violence continues to get worse and worse and worse. Now, it's not like a one-to-one with every additional gun we have more violence. But I think the solution would be fewer guns, not more.
But in that case, we already have laws where criminals, people that are committing crimes to get those guns, I mean, we already have those laws in place, and that doesn't seem to be effective to the degree that maybe you and I would both like.
We got to go.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time, man.